Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Benny right here, and in today's video I will be showing you guys how I made this beautiful reversible Pinafore Peplum with a 720 degrees flare. So I can wear both the blue part and the multicolored part as well. It is absolutely beautiful. So I will be showing you guys how to cut this out and also join it together. So if you're interested in that, please keep on watching. If you're here to subscribe to the channel, please click the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you can get notified every time I drop a new video. And also like this video, and let's get started. So hi guys and welcome back to the channel. So for you to make this Pinafore Peplum, you'll be needing at least 1.5 yards of each fabric, but if you're on the bigger side, I would suggest that you use 2 yards of each fabric for your own. So the first step is to draft a basic bodice, and I will be taking this upper part as my shoulder line. So from this shoulder line, I'm going to mark down to my bust point, which is 10.5. I know you saw me mark 10, okay? That was because last year I was a 10, but I've had a little weight, so you know, somebody is growing. So next I'm just going to take my straight ruler and straighten that line out so that it's visible enough for me to see and work with. Then I'll mark my under bust, which is 13.5 inches all the way around, and then I'll connect the dots using my ruler and my marker. I also draw out the other line to make it more visible with my marker. So next I mark my waist measurement at 16 inches, and then I connect my markings with my ruler and my marker as well. Then I come up by 2 inches from the bust point and mark my chest line right there all the way around using my marker, and then I'm going to connect my dots using my ruler. Once that is done, I go ahead to label my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my waistline as well. Then I go over to my shoulder line and divide my shoulder measurements by 2, which is 7.5, and then I mark that out and connect it to my chest line. Make sure you're using your own measurements. So next I mark out my neck using 3.5 by 3.5 inches, and then I use my curve rule to mark it out with my marker. Then next I come down from the shoulder line by 1/2 inch, and then I mark a diagonal line towards my neckline, and that's going to serve as our shoulder slope. Then I take the measurement from the slope and divide it by 2, and then I come in by 1/2 inch and make a point there, and then I divide my bust measurements by 4 and mark it on my chest line, and then I connect those 3 dots using my curved rule. Do not mind my curve rule. My curve rule is rugged, okay? It has seen life. Next I go over to my bust line and I'm dividing my nipple to nipple measurements by 2. I'm marking it there. Mine is 3.5. Make sure you're using your own measurement. So I marked it on the bust line, the under bust line, and also the waistline as well, and then I connected it to my ruler. Then from the waistline I'm going in and out by 1/2 inch on both sides, and then I connect the point to the other one at the bust point to get my dart. Once that is done, I cut out the neckline and the shoulder slope as well, and the armhole. From my bust point, I take out my bust measurements divided by 4, and then I mark it, and then I also take my waist measurement divided by 4 and mark it. I also mark the same measurement to my bust point or my shoulder point as well, and then I cut it out as seen. So on the shoulder I came in by 1 inch, and on my waistline I divided my round waist measurement, which is 28 by 8, which gave me 3.5, and then I connected the shoulder from the 1 inch that I came in by and connected it to my new waistline measurement. Please pay attention to the parts I'm cutting out. So off camera I ironed my fabric and folded it into 2, and then I placed my pattern paper at the very edge of my fabric, and you would notice that I left 1/2 inch allowance at the under of the fabric. Then I pinned down the pattern paper and I will be using it to cut out the back with half an inch stitching allowance all the way around. So because it's the back that we're cutting, I came down by 1.5 inches at the neckline because I don't want the neck to be too deep in for the back, and then I just made a curve there and then I cut it out. Remember, the back didn't have any opening, but the front will. So I folded my fabric into two and placed my pattern paper almost half an inch away from the end of the fold because the front has an opening, and then I gave half an inch stitching allowance all the way around. So that's about the front and the back pieces. So I'll pin them together because I'm going to be using them to duplicate on my other fabric as well.
So we're going to be making use of a 720 degrees flare, but let me explain to you. If I was making use of a 360 degrees flare, I'm going to divide my waist measurement, which is 28 divided by 4, and 28 divided by 4 is going to give me 7. So I'm going to use 7 for my degrees flare, and I'm only going to be cutting out one piece. But because I'm doing a 720 degrees flare, here's how we're going to go about it. So my waist is going to, instead of it to be divided by 4, it's going to be divided by double of 4, which is going to be 8, and that is going to give me 3.5. So 3.5 is what I'm going to be using to get this flare, and I'm going to be marking out 2 flares instead of 1.
So to achieve my 720 degrees flare, I folded my fabric into 4 first of all. Then on the part that has the covered edge, I will be taking 3.5 inches because that's my waist measurements divided by 8, but I'll be adding half an inch to the measurements for stitching allowance. So I'll be using 4 inches instead. So from the center point, I use my 4 inches to make a C curve. This is a rough curve actually to get the measurement that I would use to achieve my waistline. So from the center point here, I took the measurement to the point that I made, and that was what I used to create the curve all the way around. I got roughly about 2.5 inches, so that's what I used to create my waistline. If you're confused about what I'm saying, just follow what I'm doing on the video as seen. So after doing that, I connected the dots together with my chalk. Make sure to take your time to do this so that your measurement is right. So after that, I measured around my curve to make sure that it was actually 4 inches, and yeah, it is 4 inches. So from the curve, I took away my half cut measurement, which is 16 inches, and then I used that to determine how long I want my flare to be, which is 24 inches. You can decide how long you want your flare to be, but I decided to go with 24 inches. So I took 24 inches all the way around my flare, and then I cut it out once I was done. Please make sure that you take your time to do this so that you don't make any mistakes. So off camera, I went ahead to duplicate everything I did on the blue fabric on the mixed color fabric as well, and then I'm going to iron estee to it. So while that is done, I'm going to be joining the front and the back pinafore areas together on the shoulder after pinning them firstly, of course. As for the flare, I'll be cutting out one part of each flare, and then I'll join them together as a whole flare after pinning them down. So after I've joined the shoulder for both the mixed fabric and the blue color fabric as well, I'll be kissing them right sides facing each other and then arrange them on top of each other properly. I will be sewing all the way around the sides and also the neck area as well, but I won't be stitching the ends. I won't stitch there and I won't stitch there as well, so that I'll be able to turn it. So for us to be able to get that curve at the front of the pinafore, I placed both fabrics together, then I'll cut a curve at the part that I didn't join on the flare. So I'm going to pin this down and sew it all the way around off camera. And this is after I've sewn all the way around my flare and also all the way around my pinafore as well. So now it's time to turn over the pinafore, but before I do that, I made notches all the way around the neck. Once that is done, I turn my pinafore inside out. So once that is done, I get my spray water and I will be ironing from both the front and the back of the fabric, making sure that this side doesn't show here and this side doesn't show here as well. As for the flare, I also made tiny notches all the way around it before turning it to iron from both sides of the fabric, making sure that no side shows on the other side. So after all that ironing, this is what I have for the pinafore. The blue part is bluing and the multicolor part is multicoloring, okay, period. So I did the same thing for the flare as well, making sure that no side showed on the other side. So coming back to the pinafore, I'm going to be having a 2-inch band on the dress. So from the end of the pinafore, I came up by 2 inches. And then I just marked that out and straightened my line with my chalk, and then I cut it out. So after taking out the 2 inches, this is what we have. So off camera, I went ahead to cut 2 band pieces from the 2 fabrics.
So let's take measurements for the bands. This is 3 inches. It's a 3 inches band, right? And then the length, I would say the length of your band should be at least twice of your waist, and then maybe a few more inches. So this is like, I don't know, 62 or something. Then so mine is like 74 inches, although twice, my waist is 28 and twice of that would have been 56, but then I decided to add like enough allowance, so I can be able to tie it and all of that. So yes, and if you have estee, you can gum estee to one side of your band, not the 2 sides, just one side. I'll be right back.
So off camera, I notched the center of the bands, and then I also marked the middle of our flare, which was that line that we joined together anyway, so there was no need for me to mark it with a chalk because it was already visible enough. And then I pinned the corresponding colors of the band and the flare together at the middle with the right sides facing each other. That is, the right side of the band will be facing the right side of the flare. And then I did the same for the blue part as well, right sides facing each other at the center. So basically the flare is in the middle of the 2 bands, and then what I did afterwards is that I pinned through the pieces to the end of the rope. Then I'm going to pin across the other end and sew along the pinned sides.
So this is after I've sewn this stuff like this. So all we need to do now is to open this up. Right. Iron it facing up, and then I'll take in half of an inch here and also half of an inch here, just like this, all the way around to this very end of the fabric.
So after all of that is done, this is what we have. I've also gone ahead to iron out the half inches on both sides of the fabric, like I said I would. So the next thing to do is to join the pinafore to the flare so that we can bring this whole look together. So the next thing I did was to get the middle of my back. So after doing that, I notched the middle with my scissors. And then the next thing I did was to get the middle of the flare. So I kissed the flare together in order to achieve the middle, and then I marked it out with my chalk because you don't want to make any cuts on the flare. After achieving the middle of my flare and also notching the middle of my back, I placed the two middles together, right sides facing each other. And please note that we are using the back of the pinafore. So after that, I aligned the middles together properly, and then I make sure that I'm placing it not further than that half-inch folding that we have from the ironing, and then I pin it down. So for the front pinafore, we'll be placing it exactly where the flare stopped. So I used my index finger to actually trace mine, and then I aligned the pinafore with the flare with the same half-inch folding that I had from the ironing, and then I pinned it down and did the same thing for the other side of the flare and the pinafore. Once that is all done, I made a top stitch from the top of the rope all the way to the other side of the rope on my sewing machine. This is the final look, guys. It is so beautiful. I cannot wait to put this on. So this is the blue part. This is the mixed color part. Oh my god. The mixed colored part is mixing and the blue part is bluing, okay? Period. Okay, so thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and give this video a like, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.